Hi, and welcome to Family Sociology. We're going to look at step families the second time around. In the past, most step families were formed after the death of a spouse. Today, most remarriages follow a divorce, so the ex-partner and possibly children from former relationships are still present. There may be a continuing interactions between the individuals formerly married with each other, and children move between two families for visits or for changes in custody, and both parents may be responsible for their financial support. And as a result, there are new demands and strains placed on stepfamilies. This chapter, it looks at the challenges facing stepfamilies and how they can meet these challenges. Much depends on the interaction and communication between all members. The wider social context can also facilitate or hinder stepfamily adaptation. So let's have a look. We're going to start by looking at stepfamilies in Canada and look at the definition of stepfamily. And by definition, a stepfamily is a family where the children are related to one parent but not the other. In 2011, stepfamilies represented 1 in 8 couples that had children. That's 12.6%. More than half were what were known as simple stepfamilies. Now, there's two types of families. There's a simple stepfamily, where all children are related to one parent but not the other. The rest are part of what is termed complex stepfamilies. Complex stepfamily is a variation of the stepfamily form, also known as blended family. Now, if you check out the graphic 11.1, for some of the data on proportions of stepfamily types. Now, that's in your textbook. In the past, death of a spouse was the primary way stepfamilies were created, and today, more a result of separation and divorce. Now, this trend is also affected by other issues. Issues such as we have a longer life expectancy and less likely that people would be widowed at a young age. After the passing of the Divorce Act in 1968 and 1985, there was a huge increase of divorce after these acts. And with more common law relationships, there tends to be less stable than married couples. Thus, there's an increased turnover of relationships. Stepfamilies, blended families, have less established norms of how to be a stepfamily. Therefore, we have been forming new family system for some time. Now, there are social norms for nuclear families. We understand what's to happen there, but not so much with stepfamilies. The growing together in stepfamilies can take many years. They need to establish who does what and what are the responsibilities, the roles for each person, and it needs to establish a family identity. Now, there are stages of family formation, and there are 3 stages. And it's very important to note that with every separation or divorce, each person needs to first have a healthfully, if you will, established emotional distance from the former partner before entering or exploring any other new relationship. Now, that is primary, and yet it's something that doesn't happen as frequently as we might think. One of the main differences between first marriages and second marriages or later ones involves family boundaries. There are 3 distinct stages in entering and adapting to a second marriage: entering the new relationship, planning a new family, and forming the step family. We'll begin with entering a new relationship. Physical and/or emotional divorce is complete first, as anger is a significant link. As is anger a significant link to one's ex, then one can work toward and consider committing to the new relationship. This is critical to any new relationship, to be done with one relationship emotionally and physically, and starting another. This is one reason stepfamilies may not succeed, is when we don't finish one and start another. The second point around planning the new marriage and family, it's critical, and it relates to the first one. Open and honest communication is essential. expressing likes and dislikes, the new in-laws, relationship with the ex, the instant family, that is children or children in the relationship with other family members. It can be complicated, and all the more importance to work on open and honest communication. And then lastly, the third point, forming the remarriage family is around renegotiating the boundaries and the rules about who does what. New and or existing rituals or routines, how we celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter might be different. All right, let's look at stepfamily types. We'll look at table 1.1 in your text that identifies 3 types of stepfamilies based on a 10-year longitudinal study. So that'll be helpful. Now, as mentioned in the forming of the remarriage family stage of stepfamily formation, new boundaries and roles are needed to be negotiated. Now, boundaries are important in establishing who belongs in a family. This includes creating traditions, rituals, holidays, birthdays, all aimed at creating how will we be. Connections within the family and the creation of family stories are a part of this. Now, the idea is not to mimic the first marriage family. It needs to be encouraging more open boundaries, if you will, permeable boundaries, allowing children to move from one family to another with the least amount of strain. Now, there are times that boundary ambiguity exists. This occurs when there's a lack of clarity about each member's role in the family. Oftentimes, there are in many families, there can be two, for the children, there could be 2 mothers and 2 fathers. So who does what? When? How? Where? So remarriage can promote boundary ambiguity as a result of custody, visitation, loyalties. Finances, often separate but can be a source of stress. Authority over the children, household rules and disciplines. So the roles, now one of the main difficulties in stepfamilies is that there are often too many candidates for the available roles. Traditional gender roles work against stepfamilies. A difficulty facing some children in stepfamilies is a loss of the accustomed roles. When the oldest child or the youngest child loses their position because of new children being involved in the step family. Now, this ambiguity can be resolved with family communication, or it can emerge throughout the family relationship. So we'll look at the couple relationship in a stepfamily, and as in many other marriages, partners in stepfamilies have a task of commitment because a strong couple bond is the foundation for any new family. Couples in a second marriage are less romantic, but more realistic and honest about difficulties in a marriage. The struggle to have privacy or alone time, children issues, they all need attention and all contribute to this. Ex-spouse can be also an effect on the new marriage regarding visitation, plan changes, loyalties, money, unresolved issues from previous relationships, former partners, why emotional distancing is so important. The fact that parent-child bond began before the marriage, not following it, can create difficulties in the relationship between new spouses. Now let's look at the step-parent-stepchild relationship. The relationship between the step-parent and the stepchild is an important one for 2 reasons. First, many marriages flounder because the problems in this relationship, step-parent and stepchild. And secondly, children in stepfamilies are at high risk of developing behavioral problems. Successful step-parents accomplish 2 tasks. They develop an appropriately affectionate relationship with each child and establish themselves as legitimate parental authorities. A step-parent and stepchild relationship depends somewhat on the child's age and their sex. Step-parents tend to be more successful with younger children who become more attached more easily and more readily. More report positive relationships with boys than with girls. The degree of acceptance of stepfamily members is often affected by loyalty issues. Discipline, or correcting children's behavior and discipline in that respect, is another potential area for conflict. The differences in child rearing styles can come up and be an issue. Let's look at the relationship between stepbrothers and stepsisters. Now, many step-siblings do not live together, since the most common pattern for children is to live with their mothers. Children expect that their birth parents will consider them special and side with them when there's conflicts. If one set of children visits and moves into a family home permanently, then problems can arise over turf, boundary issues again. When adolescents of both sexes are in a family, conflicts may be adopted as a way of maintaining a safe distance between them. Step-siblings can provide one another with the emotional support that really is necessary as well. Now, children born into a step-family, about half of those stepchildren have been born, about half of step-families have a child born to them. This is most common with younger mothers. Having a baby is related to step-family stability. Mutual child may symbolize the family peace and harmony, because birth demonstrates love and commitment to a couple. Now, what effects of a step-family has on children? Well, many children in step-families are at greater risk of maladjustment and lower self-esteem, but they do as well as those living with both biological parents. Now, partly as a result of role and boundary ambiguity, and as a result of life changes. Also, differing parent styles can contribute to challenges of remarriage. So, family adaptation, how does that happen? Successful step-families have realistic expectations and an ability to cooperate with one another. Flexibility, respect, and you guessed it, communication, a sense of humor are characteristics of success. Creating shared family activities can be beneficial in dealing with stressors. How family members view remarriage affects their adaptation. They may regard new union as a second chance or as an intrusion into the parent-child relationship. Others consider it to be a flexible family form that can be shaped to meet members' needs. So if we look at the step-family from the wider perspective in society, you'll see in figure 13.3, and you can check out some of the ways that step-families are different from other families. Step-families have been called the incomplete institution, as it has no norms or roles for their existence. Is there something wrong with step-families? With increased number of step-families as a series of norms and roles, will be more familiar in enabling step-families to get off to a more positive start going forward. Other issues, they revolve around financial support and the role of government, and when financial responsibilities fall to the step-family alone, and ending the support payments that come from an ex. Remarriage and the family cycle. Experiences of remarriage differs according to life cycle stage of each parent. The greatest strain involves responsibilities to their children, especially difficult when they have adolescence. The greater the difference in the life cycle stage, harder it is to adopt a new family, because husband and wife are dealing with different life cycle issues. And so going forward in the future, we'll probably see more blended families, simple and complex, but we'll also start to establish what are the norms for a successful step family. I hope this has been helpful for you. This has been the chapter on step families. The next chapter we'll cover will be on family and working world. All right, so good luck everybody, and we're almost there. Bye now.